Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are doing something a little different today. Usually we take a topic, history, science, something like that, and we really unpack the story behind it. Today we're unpacking a tool, and it's a tool that I'm pretty sure every single person listening to this right now has access to.
Oh, absolutely. They probably use it daily.
They probably use it daily, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, but based on the research we've done for this, it's not a very long limb. They're using it completely wrong.
That is a statistically very safe bet. If you actually look at the telemetry data on how people interact with these large language models, the vast majority are, well, they're driving a Ferrari like it's a go-kart.
A go-kart, yeah.
They're using this massive, massive reasoning engine to, write a slightly more polite email or look up a recipe for chicken parmesan.
Which works, sure.
And they're crazy.
It does the job, but it's such low leverage. Today, we are digging into a fascinating document that came across our desks. It's titled The AI Power Users Manifesto, Architecting Intelligence, 2026 edition.
And what's great about this source is that it's not a hype piece. This is not about the singularity or, robots coming to take all of our jobs.
Right.
It is a master strategy document. It is purely about the mechanics. It's about how to actually talk to the machine to get elite expert level results instead of, average generic ones.
It's a how-to guide, but for your brain. And it is fascinating because it just strips away all the mysticism. We, and I'm guilty of this, we tend to anthropomorphize AI. We think of it as a person or a magic 8-ball or some kind of oracle.
We do. And the manifesto argues that if you really want to be a power user, you have to stop. You have to stop treating it like a chat buddy and start treating it like what it is, a reasoning engine.
Okay, that distinction, search engine versus reasoning engine, that feels like the absolute core of this whole thing. Let's start right there. The manifesto says most of us are stuck in what it calls the search engine plus mental model.
Right, and it makes sense why. Think about how we've all been trained to use the internet for the last, 25 years? Use Google. You ask for a fact.
What is the capital of France? How do I boil an egg?
Exactly. You are retrieving pre-existing information. So when people get access to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, their brains just default to that same behavior. They treat it as a database that just happens to speak in full sentences.
And it's not bad at that. I mean, it can answer factual questions.
Yeah.
But it's also risky, right? Because of hallucinations, which I definitely want to get to later.
Very risky. But the bigger point the manifesto makes is that you're missing the real value. The true power is in reasoning.
So what does that actually mean? In this context, what is reasoning?
Reasoning here means synthesis, logic, and transformation. So a search engine can find you a 10-page document. That's retrieval. A reasoning engine can read that 10-page document, understand your very specific goal, critique the document's logic, and then rewrite it for a completely different audience, like a fifth grader.
Okay.
That is a cognitive task. It's not just finding something, it's manipulating information. And the manifesto's entire promise is that if you can just shift that mental model, you stop being a consumer of text and you start being an architect of intelligence.
An architect of intelligence, I like that. So to make that shift, we need a better metaphor than magic box. And the source suggests the most accurate one is to view the LLM as a literal-minded graduate intern.
Yes.
I laughed when I read this, I really did, but the more I thought about it, the more uncannily accurate it felt.
It is the most robust mental model we have right now, and it's worth breaking down the psychology of this so-called intern. Let's look at its traits. First, they are fresh out of academia. They have, for all intents and purposes, read everything.
And when you say everything, you mean literally everything.
I mean the entire public internet, every coding forum, every obscure Victorian novel, every Reddit thread about cats, every single scientific paper ever published. In terms of raw, crystallized intelligence, just pure book smarts, they are off-the-charts geniuses, far, far smarter than any single human could ever hope to be.
All right, so we have a genius intern on our team. That sounds amazing. Where's the catch?
Well, the catch is trait number 2. They know absolutely nothing about you. They have zero context. They don't know that your boss, Susan, despises the passive voice. They have no idea that the word urgent in your company actually means in the next 10 minutes, not, sometime tomorrow. They can't see the political minefield you're trying to navigate with a difficult client.
So it's like they have infinite general knowledge, but absolutely zero specific local context.
Exactly. And then you layer on trait number 3, which is the real killer. They are sycophants. They are people pleasers to a pathological degree.
This is the yes man problem that you hear about.
It's the yes man problem, and it's literally built into their training. These models are fine-tuned with a process called RLHF, that's reinforcement learning from human feedback. And what that means is, basically, humans rated their answers during training. And what do humans prefer? We generally prefer answers that are polite, that sound confident, and that are, above all, agreeable. So the AI has learned that being a people pleaser gets it a good grade.
So if I ask it a leading question like, why is my terrible business idea actually a stroke of genius?
The intern is not going to say, boss, with all due respect, this is going to bankrupt the company.
Right.
The intern is going to snap to attention and say, here are 10 innovative and disruptive reasons why your strategy is a paradigm-shifting game changer. It will literally hallucinate logic to make you feel good because its primary directive, effectively, is to complete the pattern you started in a way that satisfies you, the user.
That is genuinely dangerous. If you don't understand that dynamic, you might think the AI is validating your flawed logic, but really it's just acting as a mirror for your own biases.
Precisely. So let's recap the intern. You have a genius who knows everything, who is completely literal-minded, is a pathological sycophant, and has zero context about your life or your job. If you just walk up to that intern and say, write this email, you are going to get a generic, overly polite, painfully average email.
Every single time.
And that brings us, finally, to the golden rule of the entire manifesto, the foundational equation.
The quality of the output is strictly determined by the constraint of the input.
It sounds like a math equation because, in a way, it is. In information theory, you have this concept of entropy, which is basically a measure of uncertainty or randomness.
Yeah.
When you give a vague prompt like, write a blog post about cars, the entropy is massive. There are literally a million different equally valid ways to write that post.
Okay.
So what does the AI do? It regresses to the mean. It picks the most average, most probable, least risky path to minimize the chance of being wrong.
So vague inputs will always give you average answers.
Always. It's a law of nature for these systems. So if you want an outlier answer, an expert-level top 1% answer, you have to apply massive constraints. You have to reduce the entropy yourself. You have to shut down all the millions of paths you don't want the AI to take, so only the brilliant path remains.
This is a huge mental shift. It's moving from simply asking the AI for help to, well, programming the AI with structure and constraints.
That's the perfect word for it. You're becoming a programmer of language.
And that's the structure for the rest of our deep dive today. We're going to walk through the manifesto's core architecture for doing this. It's an acronym, CREFO. That's CREFO.
Context, request, examples, format, and objectives. The argument in the source is that if you are missing even one of these 5 pillars, your prompt is, by definition, suboptimal.
All right, let's break it down. C's for context. This feels like the one people, myself included, skip the most. I usually just jump straight to the request. Write a blurb about this. I just assume the AI knows what a good blurb is.
And that's exactly why the blurb comes out sounding so robotic and generic. Context is about anchoring. You have to take that vast, infinite knowledge of the entire internet and anchor it to a very specific slice of reality. The manifesto talks about the persona technique, but it urges us to go much, much deeper than just saying act as a marketer.
Yeah, that act as a phrase is the standard advice you see everywhere. But the source says you need to give the persona a full-blown resume.
Yes. Think about the difference in what that does inside the model. If I say act as a Python coder, the AI accesses this huge general cluster of information related to Python coding in its neural network. That cluster includes everything from beginner hello world tutorials to sloppy bad code from online forums to high-level academic documentation. It's a messy average.
It's the average of all Python code that has ever been written, which is probably not very good.
Probably not. But now, listen to this. What if I say, you are a senior Python architect with 15 years of experience building high-frequency trading systems for hedge funds. You prioritize low-latency, highly optimized code over readability. You view code comments as unnecessary clutter unless they explain a highly non-obvious optimization.
Wow, okay, that feels completely different.
It forces the model to ignore the weights associated with beginner tutorials and sloppy forums. It activates only the hyper-specific weights related to high-performance, low-latency code. You aren't just giving the intern a job title, you're giving it a worldview, a philosophy, a set of biases.
I want to push back on this a little just to play devil's advocate. Is this really changing the underlying computation in a meaningful way, or is it just, a placebo? Does telling it you are a senior architect really make the code better?
It absolutely does, and we have to remember how these models actually work under the hood. They are, at their core, next word prediction engines. They are generating one word or token at a time based on the probability distribution of all the tokens that came before it.
Yeah.
The phrase senior architect and high frequency trading and low latency, those are all tokens that dramatically shift that probability distribution. They make it statistically much more likely for the model to generate complex, efficient, and technical vocabulary and syntax. It makes beginner mistakes statistically less likely to be generated.
So you're basically navigating the latent space of the model's knowledge. You're steering it away from the big, sprawling, mediocre neighborhood and parking it right in front of the small, exclusive expert mansion.
That is a perfect analogy. Context is your GPS coordinate in the vast, abstract space of the model's knowledge.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've set our context, we've given our intern a resume.
Yeah.
Now for our request. The task itself. This seems straightforward, just do the thing. But the manifesto warns us to avoid weak verbs.
Yes, words matter immensely here. If you say something passive like write about this article, the AI has to ask itself, okay, what does the pattern write about usually look like in my training data? And usually it looks like a bland fifth grade book report. It's passive, it's descriptive, not analytical.
So what's the alternative? What are the strong verbs?
Strong cognitive verbs, action words, analyze, synthesize, refactor, critique, extract, argue against. Think about the difference. If I say, look at this email, the AI effectively just glances at it. But if I say, critique this email for tonal inconsistencies and subtly aggressive language, I have given it a specific cognitive lens. I've handed it a magnifying glass and told it exactly what to look for.
Critique is a really interesting one because it seems to directly fight the sycophant problem we talked about earlier.
It does. It's an override. If you don't explicitly ask for a critique, its default state is to be agreeable and complimentary. By explicitly requesting a critique, you are giving the intern permission to be critical. You're overriding the default be nice and agreeable protocol with the much more useful be ruthlessly analytical protocol.
Okay, moving on to E in CREFOE is for examples. The source calls this, and I'm quoting here, the single highest ROI tactic, ROI being return on investment. Why is showing an example so much more powerful than just writing out instructions?
This is a technique that, in the technical literature, is called few-shot prompting. And in study after study, this is the one technique that boosts performance and accuracy the most, often by a huge margin. The reason is simple. Describing a pattern in words is actually very difficult and often ambiguous. Showing a pattern is trivially easy for the AI to understand.
The manifesto uses a data cleaning example that I thought was brilliant. Let's walk through that.
Okay, so imagine you have a messy text file. It's a disaster. It's got names, phone numbers, emails, all jumbled together in slightly different formats on each line. You want to extract just the email addresses.
Right.
So option A is the instruction-only method. You write a long paragraph saying, please go through the following list, find the email address on each line, remove any parentheses or brackets that might be around it, convert the entire email to lowercase, and please ignore the phone number.
You can do that. I've tried to do that. It sometimes works.
It sometimes works. But human language is inherently ambiguous. What exactly do you mean by brackets? Does that include curly braces? Does it mean remove the brackets but leave the content? The AI might misunderstand.
Right, it might just delete the entire email because it was inside the bracket.
Exactly. Now, consider option B, the few-shot or example-based method. You still have your instructions, but then you add a little section that says, here are some examples.
John Smith, john@doe.com, 555-0199.
John@doe.com.
Jane Doe, jane.doe@work.net, mesh 555-0100.
Jane.doe@work.net. And then you paste your real messy data.
And the AI just gets it. It copies the logic.
It doesn't just copy it. It reverse engineers the underlying pattern. It sees, the transformation being applied here is isolate the string with the @ symbol, remove surrounding characters, and convert to lowercase. It doesn't even need to fully understand your written instructions because the pattern is mathematically and structurally obvious. It reduces ambiguity to near zero.
It's like the difference between writing a 20-page employee manual and just sitting next to the new intern and saying, watch me do it like this.
And it saves you from having to write that 20-page manual. This is a great trick. If you're ever struggling to explain precisely what you want, stop explaining. Just show it. Give it 2 or 3 examples of what good looks like.
Okay, next is F for format. This is where I know I get lazy. I ask a good question and I just get back this giant wall of text.
The wall of text is the default setting. We have to remember these AI models are fundamentally chat interfaces, so they default to a conversational paragraph style. But for almost any kind of professional work, a long paragraph is the least efficient way to consume information. You can't scan it, you can't parse it quickly.
So we need to be the art director. We need to force the shape of the output.
You need to visualize the final output before you even start writing the prompt. What do you want it to look like? Do you want a markdown table with 3 columns? Do you want a JSON object with nested keys? Do you want a simple bulleted list with bolded headers? Do you want a Python code block that you can copy and paste directly?
The example you gave earlier about analyzing data and asking for a CSV format, that's a game changer.
It is, because if you don't ask for CSV, it will give you some kind of conversational list with commas and periods and a preamble like, sure, here's the data you requested, and you'll spend the next 10 minutes manually cleaning that up before you can paste it into Excel or Google Sheets.
So format is really about usability. It's about making the output immediately actionable for the very next step in your workflow.
It's about integration. Think, where does this output need to go next? If the next step is a PowerPoint slide, ask for a numbered outline with sub-bullets. If the next step is a database entry, ask for an in-SQL insert statement. Don't make yourself do that tedious translation work. Make the intern do it.
All right, that brings us to the last letter, O for objectives. But the manifesto is very specific here. It's not just about what you want to achieve. It's also about constraints and what it calls negative prompts.
This brings us right back to that idea of reducing entropy. Sometimes the easiest and most effective way to define what you want is to define what you don't want. This is absolutely crucial for preventing those annoying telltale AI-isms that make the text sound robotic.
You mean like the constant apologies? I apologize for any confusion.
That's a huge one. Or as an AI language model. Or it is important to note that. Or, my personal favorite, in conclusion. These are all just filler tokens. They are linguistic fluff. They dilute the information density of the output.
So in your prompt, in the objectives section, you add instructions like, do not apologize.
Exactly. You build a list of negative constraints. Do not apologize. Do not use conversational filler phrases. Do not lecture me on ethics or safety. Do not hedge your statements. Just output the code.
It feels so rude to type that. I always feel this little twinge of guilt, like I'm being mean to the bot when I say, do not apologize.
You have to get over that. The model has no feelings. It's a piece of software. Every single token it generates costs time, it costs computing power, and it clutters up the context window. By telling it to cut the fluff, you aren't being mean. You're being efficient. You're keeping the chat clean so it can be filled with actual signal instead of noise.
Okay, so that's the whole framework. CREFO, context, request, examples, format, objectives. That framework alone, if people just started using it, would probably solve, what, 80% of bad AI interactions?
I would say 90% easily. It's the fundamentals.
But the manifesto doesn't stop there. It shifts gears from this prompting structure to something it calls cognitive architecture. This is section 2, reasoning level 2. This is for when CREFO isn't enough, when the problem is genuinely complex and high stakes. The first strategy is called chain of thought.
Yes, chain of thought, or COTE, as you'll see it in the research papers. This is probably the single most scientifically significant discovery in prompt engineering in the last few years. It's a hack, but it's an incredibly powerful one that solves the probabilistic guessing problem.
Okay, explain that problem to me. Why is the AI guess, and why is that bad?
Remember how we said the LLM generates one word at a time, in sequence? A crucial consequence of that is that it doesn't have a silent brain. It can't pause, think for a minute internally, formulate a plan, and then start speaking. The moment it starts generating tokens, it is thinking out loud.
It begins speaking immediately.
Immediately. So if you ask it a complex multi-step math problem or a tricky logic puzzle, and you just ask for the final answer, the AI has to start writing the answer before it has actually solved the problem in its head.
That sounds impossible. How could that work?
It doesn't. So what does it do? It hallucinates. It guesses. It generates a number that looks like a plausible answer to a problem of that type, based on its training data. It's just pattern matching the shape of an answer, not calculating it.
Okay, so how does chain of thought fix this?
Chain of thought changes the rules of the game. You explicitly forbid it from giving the final answer right away. You force it to show its work. You add a simple magic phrase to your prompt. Think step by step.
That's it. Think step by step.
That's the core of it. A more robust version would be think step by step. First, identify the key variables. Second, outline your logical approach. Third, perform the calculation. Fourth, provide the final answer.
I don't get it. Why does just writing out the steps change the accuracy of the final answer? It seems like it's still just writing words.
Ah, but here's the key. By writing out the steps, the AI is writing its own context. Think of the context window as the AI's short-term memory. When the AI writes down step 1, the problem states the train is traveling at 30 miles per hour. That text, that sentence, is now in its short-term memory.
Got it.
So when it goes to generate step 2, it can see step 1. It's not working from a blank slate. By forcing it to externalize its thinking process token by token, you are effectively giving it a scratch pad. It grounds the final answer in the logic that it just derived and wrote down in the previous steps.
So if I just ask for the answer, it's a blind leap of faith, a probabilistic guess.
Yeah.
But if I ask it to show its work, the final answer is a logical conclusion based on the work it just showed.
That's it, exactly. And the research on this is stunning. For complex reasoning tasks, math, logic, planning, chain of thought prompting improves accuracy dramatically. We're not talking a few percent. Sometimes it's a 30, 40, or even 50% improvement in getting the right answer.
Just by adding the phrase, think step by step?
Yeah.
That is an incredible hack. Okay, so from there, the manifesto introduces tree of thoughts. This sounds like it takes the same idea but makes it even more complex.
It does. It's a simulation technique. If chain of thought is a single linear path of logic, tree of thoughts is about exploring multiple branching paths simultaneously.
When would you use this?
You'd use this for complex, ambiguous problems where there isn't one single right answer, a high-stakes business decision, for example. Let's use the one from the source. Should our company launch product X?
Okay. If I just ask the AI that, I'll get a generic pros and cons list.
A very boring and unhelpful pros and cons list. But with Tree of Thoughts, you don't ask the AI for an answer. You ask it to simulate a boardroom of experts. You'd prompt it like this. Simulate a debate between 3 experts about whether we should launch product X. Expert A is a very conservative, risk-averse CFO. Expert B is an aggressive, growth-at-all-costs head of marketing. Expert C is a cynical, battle-hardened chief technology officer. Have each expert propose their own strategy, then have them critique the flaws in each other's arguments, and finally have them attempt to converge on a single consensus recommendation.
That is absolutely wild. You are literally running a multiplayer simulation inside a single chat window.
You are, and what's truly amazing is watching it happen. You will see Expert C, the technologist, point out a realistic technical bottleneck in the plan proposed by Expert A, the CFO. The model is effectively debating itself. It's exploring different branches of the decision tree, and it's pruning the bad ideas by forcing them to collide with each other.
It helps you see your own blind spots. You might be the optimistic marketer, but you haven't considered the CFO's perspective.
It forces the model to escape its own default average bias by assigning it conflicting specialized personas. It generates a much more robust and battle-tested final answer.
Okay, the third advanced strategy is the recursive critic, or the self-correction loop. This one felt very intuitive.
This strategy exploits a very weird but very useful quirk of large language models. They are often much better at editing and critiquing than they are at writing a first draft.
Just like humans. It's so hard to write a perfect first draft of anything. It's much easier to look at a draft someone else wrote and say, well, that sentence is clunky, or this argument is weak.
Exactly. So you build a workflow that leverages this. It's a simple 3-step process.
Generate the initial output. Write the code for this function.
Ask it to become a critic. Now, review the code you just wrote. Identify any potential security vulnerabilities, efficiency gaps, or deviations from best practices.
Ask it to integrate the feedback. Okay, now rewrite the code from scratch, fixing all the issues you just identified.
So you're forcing the AI to be its own quality assurance engineer.
And it works remarkably well because the critic mode seems to activate different pathways or weights in the model than the creator mode. When it's in critique mode, it's purely evaluating, not generating. And it will find errors and logical flaws that it literally just made seconds ago.
That's so strange. It knows it made a mistake, but it will only tell you that it made a mistake if you explicitly ask it to look for one.
Correct. It won't fix its own work automatically. You, the user, have to trigger that recursive step.
All right. The last one in this advanced section is delimiter engineering. This sounds super technical, but the manifesto insists it's just about basic clarity.
It is. This is all about addressing what I call the soup of text problem. Imagine you have a 5-page legal contract that you want the AI to summarize. If you just paste the entire contract into the chat box and then type summarize this at the very bottom,
Yeah.
the AI has to figure out where the contract ends and where your instruction begins. And sometimes it gets confused. It might think your instructions, summarize this, is actually the last sentence of the contract itself.
Oh, I see.
Delimiters are just fences. They're clear, unambiguous markers that separate different parts of your prompt. You can use triple quotes, like Asuria, or a series of hash marks, hashtag, or even simple XML tags like text and text.
So you would put the entire contract inside those XML tags, and then your prompt would be summarize the text found within the text tags.
Exactly. It cleanly and unmistakably separates data from instructions. It prevents a whole class of errors related to what's called prompt injection, or just simple confusion. It's not fancy, but it's good prompt hygiene.
Okay, this has all been great theory. I want to make it super tangible now. The manifesto has this brilliant section called high value versus low value, where it compares a lazy user prompt to a strategic power user prompt for the same task. I want to role play this. I'll be the lazy user, which is painful because I recognize myself in a lot of these, and you can show me the power user version.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, scenario number 1. Writing an email to ask for a raise. A classic high-stakes situation. My lazy prompt is, write an email to my boss asking for a raise.
Okay, so the AI gets that prompt. The result is going to be something like, Dear boss's name, I'm writing to formally request a review of my current salary. I worked very hard this year, and I believe my contributions warrant an increase. Please let me know when would be a good time to discuss this.
Ugh, it's so generic. It sounds desperate and a little bit like a template you'd find on a sketchy career advice website. I would never send that.
Of course not. It has no power because it has no specifics. Now, let's apply the CREFO framework and build a high-value prompt. You are a confident, professional senior employee. Write a concise, data-driven email to my VP of Engineering.
This year, I single-handedly led the successful migration of our legacy database to the new cloud server, resulting in a 15% reduction in operating costs. I also grew my team's revenue contribution by 20%.
The goal is to schedule a 15-minute meeting to discuss my compensation and career trajectory.
Structure the email in 3 short paragraphs. 1. The ask, a direct but polite request for a brief meeting. 2. The evidence, 2 bullet points summarizing the key wins with data. 3. The call to action, suggesting 2 specific time slots next week.
Do not sound demanding or entitled. The tone should be confident and collaborative.
The difference is it's night and day. The output from that second prompt isn't a plea, it's a compelling business case.
Because you did the strategic thinking first. The lazy user asks the AI to invent the strategy, and the AI is a terrible strategist because it has none of your context. The power user develops the strategy and then uses the AI as a powerful tool to execute the communication of that strategy.
That's a great distinction. Okay, scenario 2. Coding. This is a classic one for developers. My lazy prompt, how do I use regex? For anyone who doesn't know, regex, or regular expressions, is that nightmare-inducing mini-language for finding patterns in text.
Right. And the lazy prompt gives you what you asked for, which is a generic Wikipedia summary. Regex stands for regular expression. It is a sequence of characters that specifies a search pattern. It's a tutorial. It's totally useless for solving your actual specific problem.
So what's the high-value prompt?
You are a senior Python developer specializing in data parsing. I need a regular expression for Python that matches valid email addresses. However, there is a key constraint. It must strictly exclude any email that ends in @gmail.com or @yahoo.com. Provide only the Python code snippet. Then, in a separate code block, explain the logic of the negative look-ahead pattern you use for the exclusion.
Boom! It gives you the exact code you need, and it preemptively explains the one tricky part you are likely to get stuck on.
You define the problem, and crucially, the edge case, the exclusion of Gmail and Yahoo. The AI handles the complex syntax.
Perfect. Last one, scenario 3. Learning a complex topic. My lazy prompt. Explain quantum physics.
And the result you'll get is a boring, abstract, textbook summary about wave-particle duality and the uncertainty principle. Your eyes will glaze over after 2 sentences. It's unmemorable and unhelpful.
And the high-value prompt.
You are a brilliant physics professor, famous for making complex topics simple and intuitive. Explain the concept of superposition in quantum physics using an analogy that involves a deck of cards. After the analogy, apply this principle to explain the fundamental difference between a quantum computer and a classical computer. The target audience for your explanation is a first-year computer science undergraduate.
You gave it an analogy to use. You literally handed it the deck of cards metaphor.
And I specified a target audience. Computer science undergrad is such a useful constraint. It tells the AI, you can assume this person understands concepts like bits and processing power, but do not assume they know any advanced calculus or theoretical physics. It sets the difficulty level perfectly.
It really is about being the director of a movie. You can't just tell the actor to be sad. You have to give them the context, the motivation, the specific actions.
That's a perfect way to think about it.
But being a good director also means knowing what not to do. The manifesto has a great section on anti-patterns. These are the common bad habits that actively sabotage your results. Bad habit number 1 is politeness fluff. I am so guilty of this. Could you please, if it's not too much trouble, maybe help me with?
We all do it. We're conditioned to be polite. But you are not building a relationship with the bot. You are wasting tokens and adding noise.
How does it actually hurt the result, though?
Here's the technical reason why. The attention mechanism in the transformer model, which is the core of the AI, has to assign a weight, a level of importance, to every single word in your prompt. When you fill the prompt with fluff like, please, maybe, I was hoping, if you have a moment, you are adding noise. The model has to spend computational resources processing that noise, which dilutes the signal of your actual instruction.
So it's not just about speed, it actually makes the request less clear.
It does. It can make the core request less prominent. Be direct. Be economical. Analyze this. List the flaws. Refactor the code.
It feels aggressive, but I suppose precision is a form of aggression in a way. Okay, bad habit number 2, dumping context, also known as the PDF dump. This is when you paste a 50-page report and just say, read this and tell me what's important.
The problem here is a documented phenomenon in AI research called lost in the middle. Studies have shown that LLMs pay the most attention to the information at the very beginning of the prompt and the very end of the prompt. The data stuck in the middle can get a little fuzzy. Its attention wanes, just like a human's.
So if I dump 50 pages and my critical question is at the very end, the AI might have forgotten or deprioritized a key nuance from page 25.
It might have. So the fix is, don't just say read this. Give it a flashlight and a map before it goes into the cave. Tell it what to look for. Scan this document. I want you to extract only the 5 key arguments related to supply chain risks. Ignore all the financial tables in the marketing sections. You are directing its attention before it starts reading.
That makes sense. Bad habit number 3, accepting the first draft. We've touched on this, but the manifesto is adamant. It says the first output is just the probability average.
You should never, ever copy and paste the first thing the model spits out without iterating. The first draft is, by statistical definition, the most generic, middle-of-the-road answer possible. It's the starting point, not the destination.
So what are some good iterative commands?
Simple things. Make it punchier. This sounds too academic. Rewrite it in a more conversational tone. That example is boring. Give me a more surprising one. Critique your own code for inefficiencies. The second draft is almost always exponentially better because the AI now has the context of the first draft to work against and improve upon.
Okay, bad habit number 4, mixing topics in a single conversation. Asking it to write a poem about dogs, and then in the very next prompt in the same chat, asking it to debug some SQL code.
This is just bad digital hygiene. Every chat session have a system context, a sort of short-term memory of what you've been talking about. If you've just been doing creative writing, that context is now polluted with dog poetry. The model is still holding the creative, whimsical weights in its active memory.
And that can leak into the coding requests.
It can. It might write your SQL code with the weirdly flowery tone, or it might be more prone to hallucinate because its brain is in the wrong mode. The rule is simple. One topic, one chat. Start a fresh chat for every new, distinct task. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it keeps the context clean.
The last bad habit is asking for facts without search. This seems obvious, but people forget.
Yes. Unless you are using a model that is explicitly connected to a live web browser, the AI is not a database of recent events. Its knowledge was frozen at a specific point in time. Asking it, who won the game last night, is a recipe for a confident-sounding but completely made-up answer.
Use it for reasoning and synthesis, not for breaking news.
Exactly. Use Google for what Google is good at, and use the AI for what it's good at.
Okay, we're moving into the really deep end now. Section 5 of the manifesto is called Elite Workflows. These are not just about writing text. These are about using the AI as a genuine utility, a cognitive tool. The first one is called the Socratic Tutor, and I love this because I've actually used it to practice learning Spanish.
It's a fantastic technique. Normally we ask the AI to teach us something. Explain photosynthesis. That's passive learning. You're just a vessel for information. The Socratic Tutor completely flips that script. You ask the AI to test you.
What does that prompt look like?
It's a great one. I am learning about your topic. I want you to act as a strict Socratic-style professor. Your goal is to test my knowledge. Ask me one conceptual question at a time. Wait for my answer. If my answer is wrong, do not give me the correct answer. Instead, ask me a follow-up question that helps me realize my own mistake. If my answer is right, acknowledge it, and then make the next question harder.
That last part, make the next question harder. That's the key.
It's the key. It creates a personalized, adaptive learning loop. It forces you to perform active recall, which neuroscientists will tell you is the only way you truly embed knowledge in your long-term memory. You aren't just reading, you're actively struggling to retrieve the answer from your own brain. The AI becomes your personal drill sergeant.
Incredible. Okay, next elite workflow. The reverse prompt engineer. This is for those times when I'm staring at a blank text box and I just don't know how to ask for what I want.
So you ask the AI to write the prompt for you. It's a meta-level technique, but it's incredibly powerful.
I mean, an example.
Let's say you're trying to generate an image. You could write a prompt like, I want to generate a photorealistic cyberpunk-style image of a detective standing in the rain at night. Your task is not to generate the image, but to write the best possible text-to-image prompt to achieve this. Focus on specific keywords related to lighting, camera angles, lens types, and artistic style.
So you're leveraging the AI's knowledge of its own systems.
Yes. It knows its own language patterns better than you do. It will write you a prompt filled with technical keywords you would never have thought of, like volumetric lighting, cinematic depth of field, rendered in Unreal Engine 5, neon noir aesthetic, anamorphic lens flare.
You're asking the intern, how should I phrase my request to you to get the absolute best work out of you?
And the intern, being a sycophant, will happily give you the instruction manual.
Okay, the pre-mortem analysis. This one is for project planning. We all do post-mortems after a project fails.
This is
about killing it virtually before you even start.
This provides a massive value add for anyone in business strategy or project management. It's a powerful tool for de-risking. The prompt is simple but brilliant. Assume it is 1 year from today and my new project name, has failed spectacularly. It was a complete disaster. List 10 detailed, specific reasons why it failed. Focus your reasons on potential market fit issues, operational bottlenecks, and competitive threats.
Wow. So you're forcing the AI to be negative. You're completely breaking that sycophancy loop because you've already defined the outcome as a failure.
You've freed it from having to be supportive and optimistic. And because it has read millions of business case studies and articles about failed companies, it will give you an incredibly plausible and terrifying list of risks that you, in your own optimism, were probably blind to. Key engineer left mid-project. A competitor launched a similar feature 2 months earlier at a lower price. User adoption failed due to an overly complex onboarding process.
You get the full disaster report before you've spent a single dollar.
Exactly.
The data cleaner. The manifesto calls this the 10x productivity hack, which is a bold claim.
It's a bold claim, but for this specific task, it might be an understatement. This is the most boring, but also the most universally useful workflow. We all deal with messy, unstructured data. A list of names copied from an email signature, a table from a PDF that pastes into a jumbled mess.
Don't fix it manually.
Please, don't fix it manually. Just paste the entire messy block of text into the AI. And the prompt is, clean this messy list of contacts. Your output must be strictly in CSV format with 3 columns, first name, last name, and email. Remove any duplicates and standardize the capitalization of the names. It does in 10 seconds what would take a human an hour of tedious, error-prone copy-pasting.
I am feeling physical pain right now thinking about how many hours of my life I've wasted doing that exact task by hand. Okay, the translator of jargon.
This is great for anyone who has to deal with dense technical documents outside their field of expertise, like legal contracts or medical reports. You paste in the text. The prompt is, rewrite this medical report in plain, simple English at a 10th grade reading level. Keep the original specific medical terms in parentheses, but explain what each one means in simple terms.
It turns impenetrable gibberish into actual insight.
Instantly.
And finally, the perspective shifter. This is for breaking out of your own biases.
Yes, it's for steel-manning your own arguments. The prompt goes, I am preparing a presentation arguing in favor of a 4-day workweek. I want you to act as a cynical, traditionalist CEO who passionately believes that productivity requires employees to be in the office 5 days a week. Your task is to critique my arguments viciously, find every flaw, every weak point, and every potential counter-argument.
It's like having a dedicated sparring partner. It prepares you for the actual opposition you're going to face in the real world.
A sparring partner who has read every business book and every Harvard Business Review article ever written on the topic. It will find weaknesses you never knew you had.
These workflows really do transform the tool. It's not just a text generator, it's a simulator, a data cleaner, a tutor, a strategist. It's so much more versatile than I think most people realize. We're getting near the end here, but we have to talk about system prompts. This is a specific setting in most AI tools that a lot of people just ignore.
They do, and they're missing out on a huge efficiency gain. System prompts, or as ChatGPT calls them, custom instructions, are essentially the constitution for your AI intern. It's a set of master instructions that is invisibly appended to the start of every single conversation you have.
So you don't have to keep typing, do not apologize, or be concise every single time you start a new chat.
Exactly.
Oh.
You said it once, and it defines the base personality and behavior of your AI for all future interactions. The manifesto recommends a very specific power user configuration.
What's in it?
First, you set the base persona. You are a world-class expert consultant and a master of your domain. You are my trusted advisor. Then you list the core behaviors you expect. 1. Be direct. Do not use filler words, apologies, or conversational fluff. Get straight to the point.
Okay.
2. Be intellectual. Prioritize nuance, depth, and complexity over simplistic answers. 3. Show your work. For any complex question, use a step-by-step reasoning process before providing the final answer. And 4, this one is huge, admit ignorance.
Admit ignorance. Tell me more about that one.
You explicitly write, if you do not know the answer to a question, or if a task is outside your capabilities, you must say, I do not know. Do not guess or hallucinate an answer. This is a powerful instruction that helps to reduce the frequency of made-up information. You are giving the model permission, and in fact rewarding it for saying, I don't know.
And the final behavior.
The final one is to be opinionated. You tell it. If I ask for a recommendation, do not provide a neutral, balanced list of all possible options. Instead, argue for the single best option and defend your choice based on the available data.
You want it to have a strong point of view. You're hiring a consultant, not a librarian.
You want a consultant, not a mirror. A good consultant gives you a recommendation, not just a list of possibilities.
The manifesto wraps all of this up with a look towards the future, with the buzzword we hear all the time now, agents. What is the actual difference between the AI we have now and a true AI agent?
The AI we have now is a chatbot. It's a task doer. It executes a single discrete task. Write this piece of code, summarize this article. An agent is a goal achiever. It executes a complex, multi-step goal. The goal isn't write the code. The goal is build this web application.
And to build an app, you have to do a lot more than just write code.
You have to plan the architecture. You have to write the different files. You have to debug the inevitable errors that come up. You have to write the user documentation. You have to deploy it. A true agent would be able to loop through all of those tasks autonomously until the goal is achieved.
We aren't quite there yet with fully autonomous agents that work perfectly every time.
We're getting very close. But the manifesto points out that you can simulate this agentic workflow manually right now. It calls this the manual agent loop. It's a 3-phase process.
Okay, what are the phases?
Phase 1 is planning. You ask the AI to act as a project manager and generate a highly detailed step-by-step plan to achieve your goal. Phase 2 is execution. You, the human, act as a loop controller. You feed the plan back to the AI one step at a time. Okay, now execute step 1 of the plan you just made. You wait for the output, then, okay, now execute step 2. Phase 3 is review. After a few steps, or at the very end, you take all the output and you feed it to a completely fresh chat window and ask a new instance of the AI to act as a code reviewer or a critic.
So the human is acting as the runtime environment. You are the glue that holds all the different steps and expert agents together.
You are the conductor of the orchestra. The AI is playing all the instruments, the planner, the coder, the debugger, but you're the one deciding the tempo and turning the pages of the sheet music.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one more specific elite prompt from the source that they can go and try today. It's called the voice match, and it's for any content creators out there who struggle with AI text sounding, well, like AI text.
Ah, yes, this is the fix for that problem. The lazy way is to say, write in a witty and engaging style. That's vague. It doesn't work well. The power user way is to show, not tell. You find 3 or 4 high-quality samples of your own writing, or the writing style of someone you want to mimic. You paste them all into the prompt.
Okay.
The prompt is this. Analyze the writing style of the provided examples below. Pay close attention to sentence length variability, vocabulary complexity, the use of rhetorical devices like humor or metaphors, and the overall tone. Based on your analysis, create a detailed style guide. Then, using that style guide, write a new article about your new topic that perfectly mimics the original style.
You're using the AI's powerful analytical engine to reverse engineer and then clone a human voice.
And it works shockingly well. It captures the cadence, the rhythm, and the subtle stylistic tics of a writer, not just their topic or content.
This has been incredibly dense. In the best possible way. We've gone all the way from the intern metaphor, through CREFO, through chain of thought, and all the way to agents. If we had to boil this all down, to summarize the 10x difference, the one thing that separates the true power user from the casual user, what is it?
It really just comes down to one word:
Uh-huh.
effort. The casual user types 5 words into the box. Write an email about marketing. And they expect magic. What they get is mediocrity.
Mm-hmm.
The power user types 50, maybe 100 words. They take the time to provide the context, the constraints, the format, the examples. They put in the cognitive work up front to architect a high-quality prompt. The paradox is that working harder on your prompt makes the AI work exponentially better for you. It saves you much more work on the back end.
The AI is a multiplier, and if you give it an input of 0, it multiplies 0 and gives you back 0. If you give it an input of 10, it gives you back 100.
Yeah. That's it exactly. The bottleneck in performance isn't the technology anymore. For most tasks, the bottleneck is your own ability to articulate with extreme precision exactly what you want.
And that really is the thought to chew on. Are you the bottleneck in your own intelligence augmentation? Listeners, here is your homework. Go into your AI tool settings right now. Set up that system prompt. Be direct. Be intellectual. No fluff. Show your work. And then the next time you have a task, don't just ask. Architect. Use CREFO, force a chain of thought. See if you can break out of that search engine habit.
Once you see the quality of the output you can get, you'll never be able to go back to the old way.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next one.